SLAMC decided to launch its newest fund, the Sun Life Prosperity World Equity Index Feeder Fund, or WEIF as we call it. No? The fund name is quite long, but that is because we wanted it to be very descriptive. No? So, next slide, please. So there. So let me break down the fund name for you. No? Let's break it down into two. So first is it's a World Equity Index. No? So the Sun Life Prosperity World Equity Index Feeder Fund is a unitized equity fund that aims the performance of Morgan Stanley Capital International All Country World Index, or MSCI ACWI. So second is it is a feeder fund. So unlike regular mutual funds which invest in different asset types, WEIF is structured as a feeder fund, and it invests at least 90% of its net assets in a single collective investment scheme, or what we call the target fund. So in the case of WEIF, its target fund is the SPDR MSCI ACWI UCITS ETF, managed by the State Street Global Advisors. No? And the fund objective is to track the equity performance of developed and emerging markets. And lastly, and I think this is one of the main highlights of this fund, is it is denominated in Philippine pesos. No? So what does this mean? Investors will now be able to access the global markets using Philippine pesos. You no longer need to convert your money into dollars. No? So again, using your Philippine pesos, you may now access the global markets. And the World Equity Index Feeder Fund is the newest fund in the SLAMC suite of products. Next slide, please. So it was launched only in July 2020, so about 1.5 years now in the market. And since then, it has been one of the growest fund of SLAMC. No? From its initial AUM size of less than 100 million, it has now grown to 3.6 billion assets under management. It even peaked back in December 2021 when its AUM reached almost 4 billion. But due to the choppy start in the global markets, it somehow declined year to date. Additionally, the number of clients invested in the WEIF has been growing. So as of February 2022, there is almost 5,000 clients invested in this fund already. So again, these numbers clearly show how strong the demand is coming from clients for a global equity fund denominated in Philippine peso. Next slide, please. And in SLAMC, we believe that the selling propositions of WEIF attract demand and interest in the fund. And one of the selling proposition of this fund is first, the fund allows investors to access global markets or global stock markets. Back then, as Mikko have mentioned, only high net worth clients are able to invest in global funds. And they do it either through a private banking or via opening a broker account offshore. And it actually required millions of pesos just to be able to invest in these funds. But as the SEC makes efforts to make financial products and services more accessible and affordable to all individuals regardless of their net worth, mutual funds were allowed to design products that even an ordinary Filipino can access and can afford. So here in this slide, I am showing you a map where the stocks of the MSCI ACWI can be found. And as Mikko has mentioned, there are larger investable universe outside the domestic market. So in fact, if we break down the composition of this index, we will see that the Philippines only has a weight of 0.01% in the total index. And comparing that to markets like the US, which represents almost 61%, Japan representing almost 6%, and UK with almost 4%. So the MSCI ACWI also covers more than 2,400 securities across more than 40 country indices. of which half are developed and half are emerging markets. So in short, the MSCI ACWI is an index designed to provide a broad measure of equity market performance throughout the world. It can be a benchmark for the world equity market, no? And it also gives investors a diversified exposure to other investable countries. Next slide, please. So speaking of the companies where the index is invested in, here you would see some of the companies, no, that comprises the MSCI ACWI. And we will see here familiar names or familiar logos like Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, and even Sun Life Financial in Canada. So these companies are no longer stranger to us. If you just take a look, no, at your a day in your life, no, you will come to realize that you use the products and services of these companies day by day. Next slide, please. So the second selling proposition of this fund is that it allows investors to gain access to sectors, no, that are unavailable in the domestic markets. So if we break down our PSEI or our local market into sectors, what we have here locally are sectors in financials, consumer discretionary, industrials, communication, staples, energy, utilities, and real estate. But what we do not have locally are sectors in information technology, healthcare, and materials. And these sectors, especially information technology and healthcare, have proven to be very resilient, no, in this time of pandemic. And these sectors actually pose opportunities as they continue to drive positive changes in almost all major industries. So again, by investing in this product in the World Equity Index Feeder Fund, you may gain exposure to sectors that are not available in the Philippine local market. Next slide. And lastly, and again, I just want to highlight this. I think this is one of the main feature of this fund. The fund is based in Philippine pesos. Again, this means that you do not need to convert your peso to dollar, nor you have to be a dollar earner just to be able to access the global markets. No, by using your Philippine pesos, you may now start investing in the World Equity Index Feeder Fund. And for the minimum initial investment, that is 50,000 pesos. And for the minimum additional investment, that's 10,000 pesos. Next slide, please. And we are happy to share to our listeners this afternoon that the Sun Life Prosperity World Equity Index Feeder Fund is now available through COL. So to know more about the features of this fund, you may visit the COL Fund Source. You may download the fund fact sheet and the fund prospectus to know more about the details and the features of this fund. Next slide, please. Lastly, before I end my presentation, I just wanted to share how the WEIF performed since the launch or since the fund was launched. And I guess this is also one of the many reasons why we saw a strong demand for this fund. And as you can see in the graph and in the table on the right, the WEIF has been performing very well since it was launched back in July 2020. Since inception, it has provided an almost 30% return. The fund has also been positive for the full year 2021, driven mainly by technology and healthcare sectors. So for that year, for 2021, the fund returned 25.56%. On a one-year basis, have you invested in this fund last year, you would have still gotten positive 9%. On a year-to-date basis, however, again, due to a choppy start in the global markets, it went down to 7.28%. Nevertheless, I believe Mikko has shared his insights on global markets, and you may actually view this time as an opportunity to come in, given that equities really tend to recover from geopolitical events and viral pandemics. Okay, next slide, please. And since this is the newest fund of SLAMC in COL Fund Source, we are giving away a promo for those who will invest in WEIF from March 18 to April 30. So invest in the fund within the promo period, and you will get a raffle for a chance to win one of the 3,000 investment credits that we will draw. So again, this fund is available through Fund Source. You may visit their platform to know more about the product. And the promo again will run until April 30. So next slide. Okay. So I think that's it for my presentation. Thank you so much.